Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the No House Advantage Strategy Show. I'm Dave Loughran, joined by Greg Ehrenberg. Save the pleasantries here. We only got 30 minutes, and we're going to win ourselves and use some money today with Pick'em and Verse the House, where you 21 extra entry if you hit all 5 your picks. Of course, 2K to first place in the Pick'em contest today, the slam dunk. You can multi-enter, you can do whatever you want, and there's always significant overlay. So whether you're just stumbling upon this right now, know two things. One, you got Pick'em, you got against the house. One of them you're playing against the field, the other one you're playing against the house. Huge upside in that one. The other thing, if you haven't signed up yet, all of our tools at Stokastic.com are free underneath the NBA dropdown where free tools pops up. And of course, you get a $100 first match deposit bonus when you sign up using the link in the description and in chat that Jordan's about to throw in there right now. What's going on, brother?
Not too much. Just hanging out with you on meetings today and trying to figure out what kind of content we want to do. And that is something that we've added to these shows is we're going to be talking about the pick'em, but also versus the house now. So if you guys are building out some parlays over on NHA, we can play them together now. We're going to find some legs that we like here, and only 3 games, so it's not like we have an abundance of options to choose from, but you guys could parlay different sports together. Maybe there's a pick that you guys like, that you agree with us, something you disagree, something you want to add to your card. I think we could build some community stuff together, and then we'll tweet it out, and hopefully guys will tail it and play it along too.
Yeah, we win, we lose together. And hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel as well. Keep in mind too, with the pick'em where you're playing against the field, far less efficient lines. Like, Greg and I are going to run through some right now, and then we're going to build out a verse the house. So let's do this. Like I said, 30-minute show. So I want to get as much information, as many picks in as we can out of the gate. I'll tell you right now, if you're playing pick'em, and I just dropped 10 lineups in there for tonight's 3-game slate, definitely a little bit more limited than usual. Only 3 games. You still have to pick 10 of them. Whereas with against the house, you could pick 2. You could pick 3, 4, or 5. So you can play that, whatever your comfort, however risk averse you are, you can make that decision. But I will say, man, with the pick'em today that we'll jump into first, there are some great spots like TJ Warren under 4.5 rebounds or under 18.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He played 7 minutes last game. Now, I'm not saying that this playing time is going to remain as low as it did in that game, in his debut with the Phoenix Suns. But man, I'm not sure that you get him to enough minutes in a game like this where you're looking at over 18.5. You're looking at 5+ rebounds. To me, this is one of I got a couple spots that I'm cycling throughout the 10 spot. TJ Warren unders for me are going to be one of them.
It's funny too, because TJ Warren, we have his over under 4.5 projections as the line here. We have it projected for 1.9. You could make an argument that 1.9 is too high of a projection. Yeah. Like he played 7 minutes last game. Mm-hmm. So we have him projected this under to win over 96% of the time, 96.08% of the time. This wins in our simulations. And I honestly think you can make a case this number is we're not even doing justice for how poor of a line this is. So something we should definitely be taking advantage of. Nothing projects out better for us than TJ Warren props. And like you said, 7 minutes in his first game with the Suns this year. And I assume Devin Booker also is somebody who, is going to continue to see a slight increase in his minutes, not to mention Kevin Durant back sometime in the near future. So, I mean, if nothing changed with TJ Warren, I think we should make it a point to just hammer these unders.
Yeah, I'm looking 10 spot, 9 spot, just blasting that throughout all of them. Another one too, I want to get your opinion on this, is Kendrick Nunn, right? So Kendrick Nunn last game played 14 minutes. It just so happens that coincided with Kyle Kuzma coming back after a somewhat extended absence. So you get, 22, 29 minutes from Kendrick Nunn, plummets down to 14 minutes, and he would need 4 rebounds to hit the over here tonight.
It's another pretty easy under, because look at the numbers for him on the year. He's playing 15 minutes per game this season. In those 15 minutes, he only averages 1.6 rebounds, and you mentioned it. Kyle Kuzma came back last game. That's what we've seen a lot of, where a lot of these props are most inefficient for the pick'em contests on NHA is going to be when a player has recently had a teammate added back from the injury report. Because what really frequently happens on NHA is these players are priced as if their teammates are still out. So that's where you get some of this stuff. Like, and I know the TJ Warren one's a little bit different just because he changed teams, but still, like, there isn't a great adjustment for players that are in different roles than they were in the last game. So that's why we got TJ Warren, 4.5 rebounds is super high. And for the same reason, Kendrick Nunn, 3.5 rebounds is another really high prop. It's a line that he has not really come close to touching most of the time this year, even when he's been playing extended minutes. So given his current role, I think this is a pretty easy under.
If you were to look at another top spot, and I think there are several of them today, even though it's only 3 games, like you and I did one the other day that was probably, what was it, like 7 or 8 games?
Yeah.
There are a few as far as just bangers up top that I actually feel more confident about than I did last time we did this show. Is there anything out that jumps off the page at you if we're putting it up in like the 9 or 10 spots?
You know, the 9 or 10 spots, it's kind of hard to say anything other than the TJ Warren and the Kendrick Nunn props. Like, those should be our 10s and our 9s. But if we're going a little bit lower on the confidence interval, another one that projects out really well for us is Damian Lee, under 4.5 rebounds. Another guy who is just really being projected highly in this NHA market relative to us having him projected for under 3 rebounds, actually. So we would need him to get all the way to 5 in order for this to not hit. And we've got him projected, like I said, under 3. So Damian Lee, if we look at some of his recent games, another guy too, who he's priced as if Devin Booker is still out. Devin Booker is not still out. Devin Booker is back. So with Booker coming back into the rotation the last couple of games, we've seen Damian Lee go from starting to being in a reserve role. He played 23 minutes last game. He had 0 rebounds for the year. Damian Lee is somebody who averages right around 3 rebounds per game in 22 minutes. He's probably playing right around 20, if not less minutes than that today. You need him to get to 5 rebounds for this to not hit. And it's something he's only done, let's see, 7 times or so, the entire season. So another one that's just over projected because it looks like it's not taking into account that Devin Booker's back for the Suns.
Yeah, love that one. Love Nunn. Love TJ Warren. Tyler in chat, what's up, man? Said, let's try not to split 50 ways tonight, folks. Yeah, and that gets me to thinking, right? I was thinking about this a lot as I was building my own lineups. Like, do we want to take some shots today, Greg, and throw maybe, because you look at our projections, they're free. We know people use our projections. We know that, you know, we have an optimal, not just the projections, but we also have the optimal lineup tool where, you know, we're throwing these out there and you're getting, right, like 9 of the 10 listed optimals have TJ Warren unders in the 10 spot. Rational thinking would suggest, of course, that makes a lot of sense. The other one is Kendrick Nunn under 3.5 rebounds. But maybe just to avoid the chop, you look to have all of these great ones still in your lineups, but maybe we find something that might not be popping as much in the tools, that might not look as good compared to the books that we feel good about. I think they're out there. I don't know if there's any slam dunk. Like, I think Devin Booker under 5.5 rebounds could be one that you could throw up there. Okay. And I'll tell you why. Do I love it as much as the other unders? No, but you're trying to bink. You're trying to solo with 2K, and it's tough. As Tyler astutely pointed out in chat, I'm looking at, like, okay, per 36, he averages 4.9 rebounds per game. He has a 7% rebound rate. And since returning from injury, he hasn't played north of 29 minutes. And you have the All-Star break upon us. So do they ramp his minutes up considerably again today after he's played 26, 26, and 29 in 3 games since returning? There are spots like this that I think you could roll the dice on and say, if I get this right, I'm looking at a whole lot different than anybody else, and I can still exploit the really good ones, just maybe not have him in the 10 spot.
Yeah, no, I think Devin Booker would be a good one to look at. The other thing too, though, is I would still put the props you feel most confident, like it kind of like irregardless of ownership, into the high confidence interval, just because the way these contests seem to work, you generally need to go 10 out of 10. So at a certain point, it doesn't even matter what the order is you place these in, because you're going to have to win all of them anyway. So just based on our odds, like I would still put the TJ Warren prop, Kendrick Nunn, Damian Lee in the higher spots. But yeah, I agree with you that I think that the Devin Booker one projects really well, and it's worth a really strong consideration.
Wouldn't that almost give you more reason not to put the best ones at the highest interval if you have to go 10 for 10? Like, if you have to go 10 for 10, what's it matter?
Just because these ones are locks. Like they're basically never going to lose.
Right. No. I get that. What I'm saying though is if they're locks and they're not going to lose and everyone's playing them in the 10 spot, does it help you?
No, except they can't hurt you either. So I think just for like the purpose of maybe min cashing or something like that, I think it makes more sense to try to differentiate on like a 1 point play or a 2 point play than the high end plays, just because if TJ Warren, if he's going to hit the under for his prop, you might as well just lock that into the 10 point play. You could lose your 1 point prop and still maybe min cash on a slate. You would never be able to min cash even if that 10 spot works. And I don't even think it helps you to differentiate just because these props are so close to 100% win rates.
So I guess the question then is if you're trying to play it safe or if you're trying to just solo. Because if you think about it, dude, in some way, this is similar to a showdown slate at DraftKings, where if you're trying to stay afloat, you're trying to cash, maybe chop a bunch of ways. But in that case, it's like chopping 500,000, sometimes $1 million on a showdown slate, where you're chopping 2,000. Like you need to get everything right. And usually the people that we see soloing these big showdown contests, which again, smaller field, understandable, but this is also 10 compared to, and it's also far less efficient. Is there not, maybe you're right. I'm just thinking this through and I'm thinking out loud. Like if you're trying to solo it or if you're trying to, 2x or make your money back, like what's the best way to go about it if you're trying to solo?
If you're trying to solo it, I would try to identify a prop that we think is going to be mildly popular that you think is kind of iffy and take the opposite side of what the field is going to be doing. Like if we had a prop that's like, 3-game slate, there aren't that many props to choose from. If I looked through all of our optimal lineups and saw like, hey, there's something with a 60% confidence interval that's showing up in a lot of our optimal lineups, I think I'd be a little bit more apt to take the opposite side on one of those. And like, that's something I would roll the dice with because that would be the easiest way to differentiate yourself and just have clear leverage. Because this isn't, in DFS, a lot of times you're building lineups out either whether it's showdown or a big slate. So let's say that just using a recent example, Mark Williams is going to be really popular. And we might come to the conclusion that like, all right, if Mark Williams fails, Nick Richards, old King Dick Richards, he's somebody who would really, if he plays well, that's a way that Mark Williams fails. This is kind of the same way you'd get leverage, where it's just taking the opposite side, but it's even more assured than just taking like the backup for DFS.
Are there any opposite sides that you like here that you would use as leverage?
Let's see.
Because like you have spots, such as Giannis over 29.5 points. Obviously the over there is going to be popular, especially considering people love betting overs. Generally speaking too, the best odds that you're going to get, the best props you're going to get for no house advantage, even in pick'em, are unders, right? Like we've seen that every single time. So I don't know if you ever want to go, not ever, I shouldn't say ever, because like, yeah, obviously TJ Warren and Damian Lee, but they're locks. So let's not even get into that. But I think if we're going to go contrarian and try and find leverage, you probably look for unders on popular over props opposed to the opposite, because my guess is there's going to be a lot more overs on certain spots than there will be unders where you're looking to get different.
Yeah, just looking through this and trying to figure out, I mean, Giannis is an over-under of 29.5 points. We project it fairly well towards the over. But if I was just trying to be really contrarian for leverage purposes, I think that that's something you can consider as a 1-point play because, there's still plenty of scenarios where Giannis doesn't get to 29.5 points, which once again, this isn't going to project out optimally for us at all, but just in the purpose of leverage, like what can we throw in a 1-point play where there's a realistic chance to fail? I think that Giannis scoring less than 29.5 points is going to happen way more frequently than say like, TJ Warren going over 4.5 rebounds or Kendrick Nunn putting up over 3.5. So I don't think that would be a bad one because, 29.5 is still a number where, foul trouble happens with Giannis, fairly regularly. Blowouts could end up happening. What's the spread for that game? We've got the Bucks favored by 7.5. Yeah, 7.5, 8 points. And also we've got the Bulls on the tail end of a back-to-back. So that's the one that I think I can make a case for under 29.5 for Giannis to get really different.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense too. I'll throw a couple others out there before we start building one out for against the house where you hit everything. You hit all 5, you're 21xing. And I also want to get into strategy with that too, because You can play 3, you can play 2, you can play 4. Want to get your thoughts on where the best avenue is there. Rudy Gobert under 14.5 rebounds. I still think that's a spot that you can continue to hit. Like at DraftKings, it's 11.5, but juiced minus 130 to the under right now. Drew Holiday over 1.5 threes. How about this one though? Ayo Dosunmu over 2.5 assists. So you have no DeRozan today. You don't even have guys like Goran Dragic or Alex Caruso. Where does the playmaking come from? Sure, Levine is fine in that respect. Vooch is a better than average playmaker as a big, but they don't have any like clear, definitive, standard, playmaker in a spot like this. I do like the over on Dosunmu assist today at 2.5.
Yeah, we have him projected for a crazy amount of minutes, which makes sense. These are the point guards that the Bulls have available today because of all the players who are out. We've got Dosunmu, Kobe White, and that's kind of it. Like there aren't really guys, like you said, that could facilitate or handle the ball. So if I pull up our projections here, and I know it was massive earlier in the day, so I'm just going to check to make sure nothing has changed in terms of our minutes projections, because we actually did just get an ownership update a minute ago. So our projections are always updating a lot over the course of the day. We've just assumed a project for 37 minutes. And totally reasonable in my opinion too, because the amount of guards that are out for this team. See, his unders look really good. I mean, his overs look really good because there's just nobody else to play.
Yeah, pretty much. The tool's free, Barack, over at stokastic.com. STOKASTIC. It's simple, but I'll help you real quick. If you go in the NBA dropdown, you'll see free NBA tools, and then you'll see No House Advantage right there. Super simple to get there. Completely free too. You have the pick and projections, the optimal lineups, versus the house, all that good stuff. All right. I'm going to throw one more out there at you. And then if you have one more, we can move over and build one for against the house where things are different there. Far more efficient lines. Like it's way, way different. So I gave you the ones I like. You gave me some that you liked. I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with Drew Holiday over 1.5 3-pointers here. It is a spot I like. We've got him projected close to 3. Giannis is expected to. Giannis is fine, but Porter's still out. Middleton out. Pat Connaughton out. All of these guys. Of course, you got some players that can jack up threes and Grayson Allen, and they will have guys out there. Like they do have enough depth today. But I expect Holiday to play huge, considerable minutes once again. Not only that, Chicago's allowing the 5th highest 3-point percentage to opponents this season. So Drew Holiday over 1.5 threes in a spot where you got the 2 big dogs in Giannis and Drew pulling the bulk of the load against the inferior Chicago team. That's my last spot I'm going to get to.
Yeah, and one that I'll add before we go into the versus the house props. Under 7.5 rebounds for Kawhi Leonard. We have him projected at 6. And just looking at the way that the Clippers have handled his minutes, it's unlikely to me they're going to give him a massive workload right into the All-Star break. And he's been playing, decent minutes as of late. He's starting to trend back towards being at full minutes. But still, if you look at the recent games for him, he had 7 last game. The game's 4, 5, had a game at 11, before that 4, but still way more often than not, Kawhi Leonard is falling short of this rebound prop, even as his minutes are extended. So look at the last month. Kawhi's actually averaging 37 minutes per game, which once again, I don't expect him to play tonight. I think they're going to cut back his minutes a little bit heading into All-Star break. But he's only averaging 6 rebounds per game while he's playing those 37 minutes over the last month. So 7.5 rebounds is just a crazy high rebound prop. We've got him projected right at 6, which also is in line with what he's done over the last month. So a big number for Kawhi. I like the under.
All right. We got some good ones. We got some good ones today. I really like them. Now it's just, how do you differentiate yourself from the field? That's the tough call here. Also, like I said, guys, tools are free. Link in the description gets you $100 first match deposit bonus up. So basically, if you deposit 50, your account's going to say 100. If you deposit 100, your account's going to say 200. It's very solid. Take advantage of it because it's a one-time thing, right? Don't put 10 in and then 20 the next day. Not like it matters to us at all, but for your own sake, and use the free tools. Okay, let's get into some versus the house spots here. We'll go. Do we go straight NBA?
For the own sake of what you and I are capable of talking about, I would say yes. I will say this though. We
Hockey's
do
not your
have
specialty?
Yeah, we do have Odd Shopper Premium, which has hockey lines, which you and I could pull up and just see what it is that projects well there. But just because of what I'm able to talk about and what I'm knowledgeable in, I would prefer to stick to NBA.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, I won't ask you about Travis Konecny, shots on goal, overs and unders. All right, let's get into it then. So before we even do this, how many do you want to build out? Because for anybody wondering, it's 21x if you're hitting 5. But if you're coming in here and you don't want to hit 5, you want to switch it up a little bit. You're going 3x for 2, 5x for 3, 11x for 4, 21x for 5. So I'll leave this up to you. Your call.
Let's play it by ear. Let's look at the projections and see how many lines we actually do like. And I think we can make a judgment based on that. So I will say to everybody watching, as our data team is looking into it, I don't know if you saw this thread in our, I think it was we've got a lot of threads in our Slack channel, but I think it was the data and tools one. Sean Zahn was talking about this, and actually the most profitable lines in the long haul are going to be those 5-player parlays. Now, obviously, it is way harder to hit a 5-player parlay than it is a 2 or a 3. But in the long haul, based on the payouts that are available over at No House Advantage, our data team or people who are far smarter than you and I combined, even you, myself, and Jordan combined, these guys are way smarter than us. They have said that, they have said that the 5-player parlays, because of the way that they are boosted up to be 21x, is going to be what's most profitable at NHA. Now, with that said, I do think it's going to be a little bit different slate to slate, especially on a night like today where we only have three games to choose from.
No, it's definitely more difficult. All right, let's play it by ear. I'll defer to you here. First up, and of course, the order of these makes no difference whatsoever. So it's not like we're doing anything from a pick 'em perspective. Hit me with the first one you like here.
Oh, I kind of want to steal from you also because it's the one that we've projected the best for us. But the over-under for Devin Booker's rebounds is 4.5 at NHA. And this is one of only a couple of props that we've projected here for north of 60% chance to win. And I do think it's something we should really strongly be considering for all the same reasons you mentioned before. Now, clearly, it's a little bit more efficient than the 5.5 prop that we have for the Pick'em contest, but I still think there's value in the 4.5 as well, because like you said with Devin Booker, he's not crazy restricted right now, but he's not playing, 36 minutes per night or anything like that. So he was really good last game. He scored 32 points. He did get to 5 rebounds, but since coming back, he has hit under 5 rebounds in 2 out of 3 games. And for the season, he averages right around 4.5 rebounds, but slightly limited. So I think that is enough reason to think he's more likely to be under 4.5 rebounds than over it. We have him projected for 3.9. I think we should have that in our prop card.
Okay. I like that a lot. We'll start it off with Devin Booker, under 4.5 rebounds. I'm going to go to one, and again, these are just far more efficient, but I had Dosunmu played massive minutes last game. How many minutes did you say we had him projected for?
37.
We have him projected for 37 minutes?
Yeah.
Look, he doesn't need to be great, but taking DeMar DeRozan off the floor takes away a considerable amount of usage. I'm actually going to hit on an over here. Was that, by the way, was that game against Indy? Was that an overtime game? I can't remember. Yesterday.
No.
Okay. So he played 43 in regulation.
Yes.
Okay. And you're also taking other guards off the floor, other combo guards off the floor, Dragic, Caruso. Like, the depth there is a little bit limited. With no DeRozan as well, you have you have usage that's going to get spread around a little bit. You're never going to see the 20 attempt game from Dosunmu, but I do like over 11.5 points here. We have been projected at 13.3. Right now, it has our 3rd highest win percentage, tied with DeAndre Ayton under rebounds. So give me Ayo Dosunmu over 11.5 points. Look, none of these are just like massive confidence plays, but I do think if we're looking at these, this is one that I want to get to.
Yeah, and I like Dosunmu. I'm on board with that. And then one I'm going to add to here as well, which if you guys have been watching my NBA betting videos that I do, I've had this one a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Chris Paul under 1.5 threes, especially now that Devin Booker is back. Chris Paul is just not shooting from 3 a ton. So these are his most recent games, 3-pointers made. 1 against the Kings, 1 against the Pacers, none against the Hawks, 1 against the Nets, none against the Pistons, 1 against the Celtics, none against the Hawks. he's just not been a volume 3-point shooter this year. And now he's going to be losing out on usage. He's going to be losing out on the amount of time the ball is in his hands because Devin Booker is back and still is starting to get, once again, not 36 minutes or anything like that, but around 30 minutes of Devin Booker is still enough to take the ball out of Chris Paul's hands a little bit. And given the fact that we're now on like 3 weeks since he's had a game where he's made multiple threes, I've continued to bet the under on 1.5 Chris Paul threes. And this is another spot where I like it. So Chris Paul under 1.5 threes. I think there's a little bit of value there.
Okay. Me too. And it starts to thin out a bit from here. Like when you start looking at our projections compared to the lines, you're either making gut calls, or we're stopping it here, or we're playing one more. I don't think 5 makes the most sense on a day like today.
4, I think we could. I think we go to, if you look at the Zach LaVine one, we have projected really well. I get a little bit concerned about the minutes there though, because so many guys are out for them, like we mentioned before. So a little bit of hesitation in taking the under there on Zach LaVine. But what do you think? Should we include it to get to the 11x payout, or is that too greedy?
I mean, the only concern I have with something like this right now, and you made all good points. I think the only concern I have with this is it is a second of a back-to-back, but like, are these guys just, is LaVine just going to come out and play another, he's just going to come out and play another 42 minutes?
Yeah. So the other thing too, that I actually thought you might bring up here is I'm a little concerned about the correlation, like an under for LaVine and over for Dosunmu, because on one hand, we're kind of banking on Dosunmu to play a lot of minutes. And then if we're taking under on LaVine, we're kind of hoping he doesn't play like 42 minutes again.
Yeah. Right.
So I think maybe we leave it as is and we leave LaVine off just so we don't have the 2 Bulls players in there. We leave it at the 3-leg parlay, and that could be our line for the night.
Playing for the 5X.
Yeah.
All right. The only other one I was looking at was Ayton under rebounds, but he's just playing so well right now. 37 minutes last time out. Rebound, easy double-digit rebounds each night. He's been such a monster too that my assumption is his minutes just remain extraordinarily high, with how much he's dominated as a scorer as well. So I'm not sure I love that either. Like I don't know. This is where it gets tough. Like Giannis 34.5 points. We haven't projected at 36.5, 57% win probability. How about I ask you one more here before we wrap this up? Okay. What do you make of Grayson Allen with Milwaukee being down some bodies today, against the Chicago team, like I said, that's bottom 5 in 3-point percentage allowed, or allowing one of the 5th highest 3-point percentage to opponents? What do you make of Grayson Allen over on points?
If I had to take a side, I would lean towards the over, but I think it's a little bit too thin for me to want to include it in the parlay. Like it just gets, if you include a lot of these ones that are like, 53, 54, 55% win probabilities, I think it just gets really thin trying to win that in a parlay if you have too many of those together.
All right. So we stick with 3 here. We stick with, what do we have? Booker, Paul, and who was the third one? Dosunmu.
Booker, Paul, and your Io Dosunmu, yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it. Let's 5X it. Remember, links in the description. You want to sign up, get the $100 deposit bonus. You don't need any deposit to use the tools for free though over at Stokastic. Let's beat the house today. Let's solo. I want to see a screenshot from someone soloing this pick'em contest. If it's not me,
solo the pick'em contest and win the NHA parlay in the same night.
It'd put us in a good spot going forward, man. Appreciate you guys watching. Follow Greg at G Ehrenberg DFS, me at Lafay_D, LOUGHY_D. We're throwing some No House Advantage stuff out there on the Twitters as well. And shout out to Jordan Klein for producing this one as always. Peace.